What is up? It is Thursday, September 22nd. We're previewing week 3 a little on the show today, but we have a special guest. Cynthia Frelund, analytics expert from NFL Network, comes here on the show, on the back end of the show. But we actually have another special guest joining me for the entire show, and that will be the Ringer's own, Austin Gayle. Austin, how you doing today, buddy?
Fantastic. This is phenomenal. Every time I'm on this fucking podcast, I love it. 1. 2, this is my last time in the PFF office before I moved to LA. I moved to LA. My last day in Cincinnati is Sunday. We're throwing a bit of a going away party on Saturday. No one's going to drink. No one's going to do anything. It's going to be very tame. But we're really excited. I'm really excited to get the fuck out of here. I fucking hate Cincinnati.
You piece of shit.
I sent out a tweet, and all of Cincinnati hates me for it. But the city stinks.
I disagree. I just let the record show I disagree. I love Cincinnati. But go ahead. Go off.
Here's the reasons. People, when I first moved here, people were like, what are the number one reasons why, what's the difference? Mm-hmm. The biggest reason is this place is a non-diverse fucking piece of shit. The only white people that all went to like Catholic Christian schools are all like high socioeconomic status. There's no diverse opinion. There's no diverse thought. It's all the same people. And the food suffers because of that. The conversation suffers because of that. And then don't even get me started on the weather. Like, it's a bad city. People are like, oh, what about Jeff Ruby's? There's a Jeff Ruby's in Nashville, and I'd rather be there. There's a Jeff Ruby's in Lexington. I might rather be there. Like, you
just hate the Midwest. I think.
Of course, I hate the Midwest. Who doesn't hate the Midwest?
Yeah,
and someone responded to my tweet when I was being kind of tongue in cheek about Cincinnati being terrible. He's like, "What about cost of living? Do you realize it's cheaper to live here because it sucks? Cost of living is not the like compliment you think you're giving a city. It's like, oh, well, it's so cheap to live here. Yeah, bud." You want to know why? This place sucks.
Cost of living is somewhat supply and demandy.
Why is it expensive to live in LA? Because a lot of people want to live in LA.
Government taxes.
Shut the fuck up.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. Okay, we're going to leave a little show breakdown here. We're going to first start off ranking our chances of getting the number 1 overall pick, since I have the power ranking expert here joining the show. We're going to rank the worst teams. We always talk about the best teams. We're going to give some love to the worst teams around the NFL. We're going to do a little bet recap. Austin obviously hosts a gambling show Tuesdays on the Ringer NFL pod.
I'm on with Warren Sharp on Wednesdays.
Okay,
and then I'm also on Thursdays with Raheem Palmer and Roger Sherman.
Okay, so you're all over the betting show on the Ringer NFL channel. So go check that out. If you really want a deeper dive, we just do the betting recap and betting preview every Thursday. But if you really want deep info, that probably know a lot more about betting than I do, check that out. We got PVOs, we got take grades, we got a rookie stock report, we got first round locks, and we got a would you rather at the back end. So a lot on the show today. Let's start with the number one overall pick chances. Right now on BetMGM, the chances, the longest odds to win the Super Bowl: Falcons, Seahawks, Panthers, Jets, Bears, and Texans. How would you handicap the chances, power rank the chances of each getting the number 1 overall pick here for me?
Yeah, I will say in my latest power rankings for TheRinger.com, I did have the Chicago Bears as the worst team in the NFL. I think the Chicago Bears are the worst team in the NFL. And the big reason why is I think there's so much dysfunction and disagreement between what the front office is trying to do and what the coach is trying to do. The Chicago Bears payroll this year is the second lowest in the NFL. Like, they are not paying people this year. Why? Because they do not want to win fucking football games. They know that this team is in for a year, 2, 3, 4 year rebuild, and they're investing in the future. 2, their coach is so staunch in his ways of not developing Justin Fields, not giving him opportunities to throw passes. He has the lowest amount of passes of any starter through 2 games so far this season because he wants to establish the identity and establish some of this culture. But you're like objectively refusing to develop one of your most talented players in Justin Fields by throwing the football and adding receivers to this team. Like, they did not spend money on adding receivers to this football team. Their receiving core is Darnell Mooney, who has run 38 routes, team high 38 routes so far this year, and has 2 receptions for 4 yards. That's absurd. And then the receivers after that, Byron Pringle, Equanimeous St. Brown, like, they don't have, and then Dante Pettis. Like, this is such a bad football team from a talent perspective, so much that the front office is purposely not investing in other players there. And the coach is so committed to the run game and trying to play like staunch defense against good football teams that I think they're just going to lose a lot of freaking games. I think the Chicago Bears are probably my favorite to be the number 1 overall pick. After that, I'd probably have the Seahawks in the conversation, the Jets in the conversation. Falcons and Texans to me of that group, and then Panthers too. Like, I don't think they're going to be picking one. I'd be really, really stunned to see the Falcons, Panthers, or Texans pick one. I think they're going to squeak out more wins than one of those three teams, of the Seahawks, Jets, and Bears.
Okay. I have the Texans as the best chance to get an overall pick, just because they're still like the Texans. Like they still don't have talent, like game changers anywhere. And now I love what they drafted this past year. I think their rookies are impact type of dudes. So there's like reasons to be hopeful for the future, but they're still just not good. They're still far away. Bears, I do agree though. The Bears are the second worst team in the NFL right now, or if not the worst. And if they keep playing this kind of, it's hard to say when they have a win, but it's like if they keep playing so tight, you're not competing in today's NFL. And this was by design, right? You don't have the most cap space next year of any team in the NFL without intentionally building like that. They're not rebuilding like that, because shit, it was left just completely barren. They should never have given the previous regime that the next year, the Fields year, the last year to really, because that was, they mortgaged the future with draft picks, they mortgaged the future with free agents, and they're paying for it right now. After that, I think the Seahawks, like, that's it to me of the teams that I realistically, without like massive injuries going and decimating a roster, those are the three teams. One of those three is going to have the number one overall pick, in my opinion. So the Seahawks next on that. And then I go Falcons, Panthers, Jets. Honestly, I think the Jets, I'm surprised they're that long at odds, because they've looked at least competitive. And like this roster is very young and up and coming to where like they have guys that can be impact players in time. You know, by the end of the year, it wouldn't surprise me if they're like actually going toe to toe with, you know, at some playoff type teams in the NFL. So that's how I see it. Now, who would you want if you are these teams picking in the top 5, 6? What players would you want for each should they end up there?
I think that for the Houston Texans, they obviously have to go quarterback if they are drafting inside the top 3, top 4, and going after a Bryce Young, a CJ Stroud.
That one's, whichever one.
Yeah, one of the quarterbacks that they want. Yeah. I think the Chicago Bears, man, I'm telling you, I think the front office is done with Fields. Compare the offseason for the Chicago Bears from a free agency perspective to that of the Jets, the Jaguars, and teams that feel that they have like something in their second-year quarterback. Like the Jaguars went out and spent. You know, even the Jets like went out and tried to make moves. They traded up into the first round to try and add talent to like really hit on this guy. The Bears are like, I don't think he has it. In their actions. I know they haven't said that. I know they're building around Justin Fields, and I was still really high on him as a prospect. But I don't think any of the Bears' actions from the front office have shown that they give a fuck about this guy, and like, or even have an interest in developing him. That's reflective in the game plan that Eberflus is putting out. That's reflective in how much money this front office has spent on surrounding talent. I honestly think they're going to be done with Justin Fields after this year, and that whether that's a good idea or not, who knows? You know, like I still think that from their actions so far, I think that's what's going to happen. So I would not be surprised if the Bears are picking a quarterback up there at top 3 as well, going after a Stroud, going after a Bryce Young, maybe DJ Uiagalelei if he keeps the streak going. I'm bringing that up. What? DJ Uiagalelei is back. He's back.
He is back.
He looks good.
Now is he like number one overall pick?
No, he's not number one overall pick.
Dudes look good. I mean, I have to admit, night and day from last year. Which like this was more like if this would have happened last year, everyone would be like, yeah, of course. For sure. Like this is what you expected to happen last year. Last year was the anomaly with DJ Uiagalelei, not this year. The other teams, though, that are up here, obviously Falcons, Seahawks, quarterback, all the way. That one's not a debate, in my opinion. That's why I want to see Desmond Ridder, like now, if I'm a Falcons fan. Okay, we've seen 2 games of Mariota. It was whatever. It was the same as Mariota as we've always seen. Let me see what we got in Desmond Ridder, because we're going to have to make a decision here. Yeah. You're in the top 5. If there is even more talent outside of just Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, which I think there is, you're going to have to make a decision on your hands. So I do think they'd want to get a look at him sooner rather than later. So those teams, though, quarterback easy. But then Panthers, Jets, those teams ends up with high picks. And now Panthers obviously aren't tied to Darnold after this year, aren't tied to Baker after this year. Did draft Corral, but obviously he's out for the year. Are you drafting a QB again if you're the Jets or Panthers and you end up in the top 5, top 3?
Right now,
sitting at you.
Right now, if Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are off the board by the time I'm picking as the Panthers, I don't know if there's a quarterback that you're taking at 3, right? Like, I don't know if you're making that investment. I think they're more primed if they're outside of the Young Stroud sweepstakes to bring in a new regime. I mean, fire Matt Rule already. Like, what is going on in Carolina? It is a fucking disaster class over there. Get a new regime and, like, kick off this rebuild two ways. Like,
the only problem is you fire Matt Rule and it's Ben McAdoo.
No, that's true. That's true. Like, leave him for the rest of the season. Who cares? Like, bring in a new regime, and I think you have to go about it one of two ways. Like, the Falcons way of, hey, we're just going to sign, like, a quarterback in free agency until we're picking highly again and, like, have an opportunity to make some plays and invest in a quarterback, or you hope that you're in this kind of Stroud sweepstakes, which they're not out of yet, right? They're not. They could lose a lot more games and be in that conversation.
Yeah. I do think the Jets will be
sticking to Zach Wilson.
Sticking with Zach Wilson.
I agree. I think the injury helps that. I think the injury, like, honestly helps Zach Wilson's case. Because if he played well across a 17-game season or played poorly across a 17-game season healthy, I think he's on his way out. But now, like, with this injury caveat, I think that there's a really good chance he plays well enough for them to Daniel Jones this bitch. You know, where they're like, he kind of looked good. Let's give him a shot.
And from a GM perspective, you don't get two swings at a top 5 QB.
No.
You know, like, that's just you're going to have such a tight leash at that point. And
that's a great take as well.
That second quarterback doesn't start out hot, you're gone. It's over. You're gone. All right. Those were our handicapping of the number 1 overall pick. Jam-packed show, so let's keep it moving here. Bet recap. Last week, 3-5. Missed my two unit bet, but hit the Alvin Kamara under prop, Elijah Moore under prop, Packers Bears under. The Bengals boned me and probably a lot of people because that line moved 2 points from when it opened to when it closed the Bengals way, and they peed down their leg. Trey Lance over 202.5 passing yards. He might not hit that for his career now, so maybe gave him the kiss of death with that one. Thoughts and prayers to Trey Lance. Did you see Colin Cowherd get dunked on by someone on Twitter?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Can we even talk about that? I think we can.
That was sensational.
I put it in the document.
You did?
It was supposed to be on the show today.
Let's see.
I don't think it made it.
Where is it? I need it because it's a phenomenal tweet.
That was unbelievable.
Oh, can you explain it? Where I can't find it in the doc.
Oh, so it was here. Colin Cowherd. He said, you feel bad for Trey Lance, but the team is better today on his show on The Volume or whatever because he has his own network. Someone quote tweeted said, you're a terrible fucking person, bro. What the fuck? And Cowherd said he didn't break a neck. It's an ankle. And
which is such a terrible take from Cowherd, by the way. Like, dunking on this guy. I mean, not dunking on him, but, like, saying this about Trey Lance after he, like, has a season-end injury, I think is fucked.
Yeah.
Regardless if it's an ankle or a neck. Who cares? Like, this guy's, like, life has changed.
He said, I know I won't wait until you're comfortable. Adults can handle the news, even when it sucks. And the guy quoted it and said, you love the guy and had nothing bad to say about him when he was inside your daughter on a daily basis. What's the issue now?
Oh, that's a log-off situation for Colin Cowherd. You got to get out. We were talking about the Trey Lance Cowherd's daughter saga on Tailgate RIP, where he was when? What was some of his IG comments? Text me back. Some shit like that.
Yeah, he was simping over Cowherd's daughter.
He was. And now Cowherd's just a total douche. I wonder if
Cowherd was going to bat for him.
He was.
Calling him the RKG, right kind of guy. He's got the moxie. I think he's got it.
Oh, he's got it.
Heel turn.
Well, Cowherd has moved to another quarterback now.
Who's he
Cowherd's
on?
Guy now?
Burrow's on every, like, Tuesday. Basically like what like Rodgers does for McAfee.
Oh.
That's like Burrow's got it. Although Burrow did say he deleted all his social media, though. I don't know if that means that he's not going to go on the podcast anymore. I don't know. What
we saw the Jason Whitlock tweet calling him woke, and he's like, I can't handle this. I can't either. I can't handle Twitter. I wish I could. I wish I had a job I could.
Man. Yeah. I just wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
That you deleted your...
No.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, just...
Apparently, like, he does it regularly. It was kind of like taking out context. Like, he does that every season.
Oh, really?
It was just more... Someone was asking about, have you seen this? He's like, no, I've deleted. But he does that every year.
I see.
Everybody thought Herbert was the introvert and the mentally weak one.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Burrow can't handle a little...
Turntables have turned.
Herbert's on TikTok.
Is he?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Herbert's out fishing, probably.
True.
Herbert's separated from the rest of the world. All right. What are your bets of the week, though? What do you got for me?
I love that you brought me on the show to recap your shitty bets.
I just want, I transparency here. I am, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I am 6 for 11 here this year.
Happy for you.
Thank you.
I had 16 bets last week in the NFL. I came up 0.76 units. It was
cash money.
It was not great. The best bet I had was I bet Bucks minus 2.5 Bucks -6.5, and Bucks -9.5.
Oh, you were just.
I was doing alternate. I was just all in on Bucks, and obviously the first 3 quarters of that game, I was crying myself to sleep.
Yeah.
But that was really what saved me on the week. Big bets this week. I was on the betting podcast with Warren Sharp on Wednesday. Go check that out on the Ringer Gambling Show, and he and I are both kind of like Chiefs -6.5 in Indy in a dome against that Gus Bradley defense that has legitimately been buttered like toast against Mahomes. Gus Bradley plays more cover 3 than any other defense in the NFL. You know, a Tiger does not change his stripes here. The last 7 games that Patrick Mahomes has played a Gus Bradley defense, because he obviously was a defense coordinator for the Raiders for a bit, 17 touchdowns, 2 picks. Blowout wins every single time. Like, I think Gus Bradley is really going to struggle against Patrick Mahomes in this Chiefs offense. And I think on the other side, Matt Ryan's arm looks like it's like decaying every single week. Receivers are banged up. I think Pittman and Pierce might be back healthy after missing last week, but still coming off of injury. And the offensive line is dog shit. Matt Pryor, their left tackle, I think has allowed more pressures than any other player in the NFL. If not, it's top 3. Last week he got benched for Bernard Ryman. Ryman comes in, plays like the last 2 drives, and then Pryor has to come back in when they bench Matt Ryan and the rest of the starters. Like, they're doing that to Matt Pryor? That's just heinous. You can't have a guy come into a game and start and then get benched, and then when you bring in the bench players because you're getting blown out 24-0, he has to go back in. That's insane to me. I think they're really, really struggling along the offensive line. I think they're struggling to create any separation with an injury banged-up receiving core, and I think Gus Bradley is going to get filleted. 6.5, I think, is too small. I'm surprised that the number is not out to 7.5.
I'm very glad you brought up the Gus Bradley side, because everyone's talking about their offense. You know, they just get shut out. Everyone's talking about this offense for the Colts. But I am very worried about the defense. I mean, if you're playing that much cover 3, so base cover 3, 64.5% of the time, they are in cover 3. No one else is above 52%, and that's the 49ers.
Yeah.
To play that, you have to have elite level linebacker play, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because they are asked to cover so much ground in that defense. In a
KJ Wright, defense. Bobby Wagner shit. Like, you have to have some dogs.
You have to have elite level linebacker play. They have that in San Francisco. That's why they can do that. They have speed there. Without Shaq Leonard, you don't have that. So the seams are very viable, very in play in that Colts defense. We saw it week 1, OJ going up the seam multiple times for the Texans. I am worried about both like that. They used to be, it's more like they were a very good defense under Matt Eberflus, that they could get away with being a ground and pound, win games on the defense side of the ball. They're not there anymore. I don't think they are. I don't trust them on that side of the ball. Teams have figured out cover 3. It's why everyone's going away from it.
Yeah.
And why scoring is down because of that. So, yeah, I worry about them. I like that bet.
Now, I think reason why, so that bet opened at 6.5, and reason why it's now down to 5.5. Warren was saying you're going to see Colts money on this bet. And Warren knows lines like a motherfucker. Like, if he knows anything.
It's a big home dog, though.
Yeah.
It is.
So, like, what he said is, like, people forget the Colts have not played home yet. Like, this is their first home game. So he said, he was essentially telling me, like, don't bet it at 6.5, because he's predicting that Colts money is going to come because it's their first home game. Bet it at 5.5 if you do like the Chiefs side. And now, right now on FanDuel, it is at 5.5. So if you do like Chiefs, I'm probably taking a little bit more at 5.5.
I like lines I like here. 2 lines that I like this week. Bucks -1.5 against Packers.
Deal. All in on that.
Packers wide receiver core
decimated.
They might not. I mean, it might be Romeo Doubs. Might be your one. Sammy's hurt. Christian's hurt. That's tough. And they were like, it was tough with those guys. Now it's even like tougher. Damn near impossible. So that one I like. And then Saints -3 at Carolina. That one I very surprised it's still only -3. Carolina, serious issues there that I don't see fixing. Now the defense is fine.
The worry I have with the Saints and like betting the Saints is I do think that the Jameis Winston injury is more than what's being let on, because his accuracy in that last game was disgusting. And when he was at a press conference or a media availability this week, and they asked him about it, he's like, I can't talk about it, or like he kind of essentially like avoided the question. I think he's like kind of hurt, and like he's already inaccurate when he's healthy.
Yeah.
Like being hurt, I think is gonna. I don't know. I'm scared to bet on a road favorite in Jameis.
Good looking like Baker last year.
Yes.
Basically.
Now
maybe talk me out of that one.
Other lines I like. I got Eagles early in the week at -4.5 against the Commanders. That's all the way out to 6. Like I think that the Eagles are going to dump on the Washington Commanders on the road. And everyone knows from my tailgate
OBJ
days
and Eagle.
that I can fade the Raiders of the best of them. But I like them a lot against the Titans this week at -1.5. I think that the Titans are in a really bad place. Like their receiving core, even with Treylon Burks, is struggling. And I know he played a little bit better this past time, but I still think he's going to struggle against this Raiders defense. I think the pass rush is amazing for the Raiders right now. Chandler Jones and Max Crosby are teeing off. And Taylor Lewan's probably not going to play in this game. And, I worry about this Titans offense. Derrick Henry does not look like the Derrick Henry of old. This offensive line is not getting the push that they wanted. I think this Raiders team, who is in desperate need of a win, is being faded into oblivion because they're 0-2. -1.5, I think, is too small. I think 1.5 over Tennessee is another line I like. Before,
I'm switching mine to that one. I like that one too.
Oh, I'm convincing you to go on my side here. I want to talk about one more line if we could. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of betting content. The other line I want to talk about is this freaking Miami game. It's like the game of the week. Bills, Dolphins. Buffalo's been favored by 6 in some spots. It's right around sitting around 5.5. I think before the Monday Night Football game dominance, where Ryan Tannehill got benched at the end of the third quarter because Ken Dorsey was putting on a clinic. I think it opened at 4.5 for the Buffalo Bills as favorites. I really like Buffalo in this one, man. And I know Miami's getting money. I know they came back against Baltimore and they look electric offensively.
You're talking to the Dolphins.
I know, but hear me out.
Okay.
The Miami Dolphins offense is great. Phenomenal. It's been fantastic. And I think Micah Hyde banged up. Dane Jackson banged up. Tre'Davious White missing this game. That secondary is hurting badly.
Yeah. Are they all out? I think
Tre'Davious White I know is out. I know Dane Jackson is out. Yeah. I don't know if Micah Hyde is out. But if even still, he had to I think he was taken to the hospital for a neck injury that night. So I don't know. And he's got a short week.
You got rookies against Jalen Waddle and Tyreek.
That would be tough. It's going to be tough. And now I still think the defense is really well coached. I still think that the pass rush is insane. I think they have three pass rushers ranked top 8 in PFF pass rush win rate. That's courtesy of Brad Spielberger on Twitter. I think the defensive line is good, and the secondary is really well coached. The injuries aren't great, but I still think it's a well-coached defense. Give the offense, the Miami Dolphins, I think should have some success. I just think the Bills are going to shit on the Dolphins defense. Dolphins defense blitz a lot. They run a lot of man coverage, a lot of single high, and I think that's just going to be a disaster for this Bills offense. I think Josh Allen's going to eat them alive if they run man coverage at a higher rate than any team in the NFL. They blitz a lot. But, Josh Allen's been pressured on the fewest percentage of dropbacks this year. The offensive line is stout. I think that the Bills offense has a bigger edge in this one, even as good as the Dolphins offense is. Now, could the Dolphins backdoor cover at home? Absolutely. That's maybe why you stay away from the 5.5. But I do think the Bills win this game pretty handily.
Okay. There you go. I don't want that line. I'm not touching it. It's going to be
the game of the week, though. That's going to be a fun-ass game.
My others. I had over in the Falcons-Seahawks, 42. I like the over in that one. No?
I'm not. That game's gonna be ugly.
It's gonna be ugly, but I like the over in that one. Geno, top 22 quarterback core in the ringer.
Yeah. No, he's down. He's down to 24. I'm talking to Stephen Ruiz off the ledge. Okay. I told him on the podcast this week. I was like, if you have Tua ranked behind Geno Smith this week, I'm gonna kill you.
But I still think bad defense wins out over bad offense. In that bad offense still exploit bad defenses. These are just not good defense right now.
Yeah.
So over hits in that. I have tonight little prop special for you. David Bell over 5.5 receiving yards.
Over 5.5.
David Bell, he ran 22 routes last week. He'll get over 5.5 receiving yards.
I like that bet. I kind of like that bet.
That is a catch for David Bell. And then Devontae Adams over 6.5 receptions. I think they go back to the drawing board after him getting only 2 last week, after he had 10 week 1 and 15 targets, and say, hey, let's get to the ball to our best player. Mm-hmm. If we're going to go down, let's go down swinging with Devontae Adams and not with Matt Collins. So Devontae over 6.5 receptions.
I like it. I have no prop bets for tonight. They were asking me to kind of come up with some. I don't really like any of the lines. Part of me wanted to bet some under passing props. The line for Trubisky and Brissett is 188.5 for Trubisky, 181.5 for Brissett. Those are low, dude. And I don't want to bet an over on either of those dog shit QBs. I don't want to do that. And then rushing props, I think Chubb is maybe a bit high at 84.5, but they've been running the ball a lot. And I don't know. I don't like any of the props tonight.
Okay. Let's get to PVOs. Oh, and we're going to have to do it too, because right off the bat, it's one of your podcast co-hosts.
Oh, no.
Warren Sharp Football.
Don't do this to me.
On Twitter.
Oh, yeah, this one was tough.
Yeah. This was from Monday Night Football. He screenshotted a penalty in the game. That was a false start penalty where, if you guys remember it, it was, I can't remember the DT, jumps out of his stance but not into the neutral zone, was ruled a false start because the offensive lineman that comes out of his stance. But it was true. He wasn't in the neutral zone. But Warren Sharp tweets the picture of it with quotes, not in the neutral zone, which usually when you put it in quotes, which means you disagree with said quote, And the picture clearly shows that, like, he's not in the neutral zone.
Yeah. I don't have a problem because I think a lot of people were not sending out screenshots of the play and saying, like, whoa, that should have been neutral zone infraction. The refs are blind.
Yeah.
It really, to put the picture in it, it's like, no, wait, he wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, wait, no, he wasn't in the neutral zone.
I wonder if he was looking at the guy, the outside linebacker.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, maybe. But that he has like an angle.
If he is, it's still a false start because you have to be adjacent on the offensive line. So
True.
Still false start.
I think that we were watching that together. As soon as I said that, I was like, I don't think he was in the zone, and I was happy that I was happy with the false start call. I thought that was a good call.
Yeah, that was a good call on your part. I called it right away. All right, next one here, PVOs. We're not going to watch this whole video because it's kind of long. But
I told you this one. This one's good.
I'll just give a recap of what LaShawn McCoy, who apparently is on Speak for Yourself on Fox Sports 1 like daily.
Is he?
I guess. I've seen a bunch of clips of him now being on. I don't know if this was just a one-off. But he comes with the take that the Cowboys played harder for Cooper Rush than they did Dak Prescott.
Do we have the video queued up just for the first 15 seconds?
I do, yeah.
Because the first 15 seconds are fucking gold.
Yeah, I got it trimmed down to 30 seconds.
Oh, nice.
I cut off the actual debate at the end.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
I'll run it right now.
I felt like they played harder for Cooper Rush than they played with Dak. The running game was on fire. The guys up front were blocking. They were like blowing the guys off the ball. I haven't seen that with Dak. Receivers, even hard contested catches, they were catching them. They looked like they were really motivated. Hold up, the defensive line, Parsons including, was going crazy. So I haven't seen that with Dak, right? I mean, he only gave up 3 points, but I didn't see it. So I think the best part is they actually play harder, I felt like, with Rush.
That's just one of the fucking worst takes I've ever heard.
That's such bad analysis,
It's
man.
terrible. He's like the Micah Parsons comment is horrendous. Micah Parsons is a monster. And he's like, he was making plays. It's like, yeah. He was defensive rookie of the year last year. Like, I don't know, man. That was a tough take. There's another part later in that, though, where he's like, they were high-fiving each other after plays. It's like, dude, you need to stop. Like, you need to stop. Receivers making tough catches? Are you high? You think receivers are just like not getting after it for Dak? That's one of the worst takes I've ever seen.
I know that this ball is coming towards me, but since it's Cooper Rush, I'm going to fucking get it.
Also, does he not remember when Dak got hurt and broke his ankle? The entire NFL almost collapsed. Like, this guy's one of the more respected human beings in the NFL.
Well, and the Cowboys themselves.
Yeah, and the Cowboys themselves. Yeah, and the Cowboys collapsed.
All right, next PVO here. And this one's not for Andrew Filipponi, the Pony Express on Twitter, who's a Steelers Pittsburgh radio personality.
He's got some takes.
I love this guy. He's good. He's good on Twitter.
They call him
the Take Express.
No, the guy who runs Old Takes Exposed refuses to do Filipponi tweets because he calls him Pitt Bayless instead of Skip Bayless.
Wow,
Pitt
that's
Bayless.
good. Yeah, that's good.
But he is. He throws shit at a wall. But this one's just a stat.
Andrew Filipponi. That's not bad.
That's not bad either. The Steelers haven't scored an offensive touchdown in the first quarter since the Lions tied. That's 11 games in a row. Consider this. You're starting with scripted plays. Theoretically, plays Canada likes best for their opponent that week. And this one makes PVOs because I don't want to dunk on a current offense coordinator online.
Yeah.
And, we have relationships with NFL teams. Mm-hmm. They sometimes see that kind of stuff. But my fucking God, dude. That's a massive indictment. Yeah. 11 games in a row without a first quarter touchdown is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have some.
There's no better stat to me because that's what the high end play callers in the NFL are known for, coming out the gate and having a plan of attack that works right away. Like the first 15 of Andy Reid, of Matt LaFleur, like those guys crush it out the gate. Their first drives always. Steelers not doing that. That's.
I was bringing this up in previewing tonight's game, obviously, because the Steelers play the Browns, and listen to this stats. The Steelers are 28th in play action rate, 20th in screen rate, and 21st in pre-snap motion / shift percentage. Like, they are not creating any easy offense for one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. That, in my opinion, is what is malpractice. Like,
malpractice.
If you have a bad quarterback or a limited quarterback, I think bad is maybe too much of a negative connotation, but like a limited quarterback, and if you don't think Mitchell Trubisky's limited, then go join Shady McCoy on fucking FS1. Mm-hmm. Like, you need to be doing unique things to get him easy offense. You compare that to the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, who is a limited quarterback. Dolphins run more play action, and more pre-snap motion than any team in the NFL.
Yep.
That is what you have to do. Like, you have to do. Those are the easy edges in the NFL. Easy is probably the wrong term, but those are the obvious edges in.
I'd say it's easy.
Yeah, I guess
honestly,
those are
as a play call. Like, they've been proven to be
proven
effective.
edges. Yeah, those are proven edges running offense. Now, if you have like a quarterback like a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, I don't think those are things you have to think as much about because they can do anything, anytime they want. But with Mr. Trubisky, if you're not running play action a lot, like if you're not giving him some screens, if you're not helping him, move the ball and just asking him to fucking step back, drop, and make some plays, I think you're going to struggle. I honestly think you're going to struggle.
Yeah. All right, last PVO here before we get to a new segment, actually.
Ooh.
Connor Hughes on Twitter. This is actually just a quote from Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay asked about his 2 snaps last week. He said, "I should be playing regardless." That's a fact. Kenny, I hate to break it to you, but that's not how.
I will say, so I'm working on a Giants piece because I think that for the Ringer, to talk about like this Brian Daboll like just coming in and swinging some balls around, like
he played David Sills over Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, he played David Sills over Kenny Galladay, who's on a 1-year, $825,000 contract. Kenny Galladay is making more money than any other receiver in the NFL. I'm gonna say that again. This year, no receiver will make more money than Kenny Galladay, and he fucking benched him. He benched him. That is like balls. For David Sills. Like that's accountability. That's like a long leash from the new GM there, Joe Shane. Like he's like, do what you have to do. Kadarius Toney's getting benched. Kadarius Toney's not playing as much as maybe people think he should, and for how high he was drafted, and that's accountability. After Daniel Jones threw that terrible red zone interception in a one-on-one with Saquon Barkley in that first game that almost cost him that game, he's screaming him out on the sideline. It's like, what the fuck? He's saying like, you can't do that. You can't do that. That I think is accountability the Giants haven't had in a while. Like I think that's money in the bank. I think Daboll's making something happen, and they, everyone but Kenny Galladay I think is rallying around it. I think you saw after their Week 1 win, Xavier McKinney, the captain for the Giants, Daboll's like hyping him up with another thing. He's like, game ball goes to Daboll, and everyone's like, let's fucking go. I think that kind of player buy-in is super important for rebuilding teams. I said that about the Lions, and the Lions are one of the best against the spread teams over the last 2 years. I think Daboll is another one of those guys where they should not be 2-0. They are a bad football team. Mm-hmm. Both those games they probably should have lost, but they're winning them because I think they do have this player buy-in, and that's going to mean a lot. And one of my favorite things that Daboll has said, I think in 2 press conferences now, process over results. Even after that game they won last week, they're like, even if we lost that game, we are fighting and clawing, and the process is there and the preparation is there. And I think that has trust the process written all over it. And I think that trust the process in New York, man, I think Daboll's it.
Yeah, if you're a Giants fan, to me, that is the real, like, hard-nosed coach.
Yes.
Is being able to do that. Is being able to say, I know we're paying this guy $1 zillion. I know he's, established in the NFL, but he's not doing the things that I believe in to win. This guy is. Why should Galladay be playing? Over, David Sills, objectively, Galladay's more talented, but much better in the NFL over the course of his career, but that's how you get buy-in, because then there's not that guy over in the corner complaining about, why am I not getting action when I'm doing everything right?
Yeah.
The guys that are doing everything right are getting the action. Like, he's living by the code.
I always say this. I always have the caveat, like, I haven't played in the NFL. I did not play in college. Yeah. I don't fucking know anything about locker rooms. But on the outside looking in, I think players play for coaches that have that kind of, like, accountability and, and want to play for coaches that make no excuses and bench players that suck. Go watch. I don't know if you have.
Suck. Like, don't give the effort.
Yeah, don't give the effort. Go watch the Week 1 all Kenny Galladay's routes. Yeah. He is jogging, dude. And I didn't say this on Twitter because I don't want to, like, I think effort. What is it, like?
Policing.
Effort policing on Twitter using all 22. Like, you don't know if like he was like the 5th player in that read or whatever the fuck. Go watch the Kenny Galladay tape and tell me what you think from Week 1, because I think there's so many of those routes where he's just like giving up, and I think that's why he was benched. I don't think it's a practice thing. I honestly think this last game he looked like dog shit.
Yeah. All right. New segment that we will
probably
not be keeping.
I hope we do, though.
But this stems from this awesome tweet from NFL.com or NFL at NFL on Twitter. They tweeted out on Monday Night Football after the games, "Who is more him tonight?"
I'm so sorry. That is so funny.
This is just such a hello fellow kids tweet from the NFL. I honestly, like, I understand like him, like what that is in like the vernacular. I will never use it. That's or like that to describe someone. But we're gonna do him of the week.
Can I make a comment on it?
Yeah.
I do think the him stuff is funny.
I think it's funny. But using it ironically is funny.
Yeah, using it ironically is funny.
This is like them thinking it's like
I sent my my friends back home in a group chat, and I'm like, what did I say? I was like, oh, I'm up like a unit in like betting rooms. Like he's Timothée Chalamet. Yeah. They're making all these jokes. I think those are funny, but like when you're tweeting out who's more him tonight,
who's more him?
That is hilarious. Like hello fellow kids, nerdy bullshit. But all right, who's our him of the week?
Who is your him of the week? Everyone have your own him.
All right, Quinn's getting on the mic. What does he got?
No, I was just gonna say it's hard to. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've said him unironically.
Okay.
It's hard to. It's kind of like lit.
Yeah.
Like I don't love saying lit anymore because that jumped the show. I mean, I guess that was hot for a second, but like I cringe when I say that. But like sometimes it slips out. Mm-hmm. Or Austin, kind of like your how fi so fi.
Yeah.
Like something like that. Like no offense, but sometimes I say that and I'm like, God damn it, why the fuck did I say that?
How fi?
So I feel like that's kind of what him is now.
No,
so I like to say no. I'm for it.
Yeah, it has gotten played a little bit. All right, you're saying who's the him of the week?
Who's your him of the week?
Dude, it's Tua. He's him.
Tua's your him of the week.
He's him. You can't tell me him. Tua Hima Vailoa. Tua Hima Vailoa. You're telling me he's not him?
Tua was.
You know who's him? Mike McDaniel.
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel's
been him.
He's been him.
I'm trying to think of my him.
You came up with this segment. You don't know who's him?
I was trying to play off of your guys' hymns of the week.
Okay. Well, I have Tua Hima Vailoa and Mike I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Him McDaniel.
I'll go to the defensive side of the ball. I'll do Jalen Ramsey was him of the week.
Jalen Himsey?
J him.
You have to. J him is terrible. Jalen Himsey's great.
Jalen Himsey, him of the week. Quinn, who was your him of the week? The pick him had was great.
I will go with, and just because I watched it, Michael Parsons.
Like
that was, I mean, shit. That was one of the more dominant defensive performances I've seen.
Yeah,
Micah
Himson.
Micah Himson.
I mean, he was like, he flat out wrecked that game by himself.
This is my least favorite and favorite segment.
Him.
I think we're keeping the him power.
He's him.
The him of the week.
I do think he's him.
Yeah. All right. And that was him of the week.
That's good.
Now on to take grades. We got one made the cut this week. Quinn, you got it queued up or take grade.
What's my take grade?
Speak pipe.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's hit it.
All right, Mike. I'm a Colts fan. You're a Packers fan. Right now, we are feeling the same pain. Now, Colts fans feel this pain every year. We always start off slow, and usually we are making a playoff push, oftentimes a playoff team. The Packers are in the same boat the past couple years, getting blown out week one and it not really mattering. Except for the fact, and the same with the Colts, week one was against a divisional opponent, which brings me to my hot take. Divisional games should not be in the first half of the schedule. In fact, the first 5 games of the season should all be AFC versus NFC.
Ooh, I actually kind of like that.
That's interesting.
I do like starting off outside of conference and then having like a stretch run at least. Maybe you don't have to start all outside of conference, but like the last 4 games or last 3 games is a round robin in your division. Mm-hmm. I think would be sweet to end it every year with divisional round robin. To kind of have like, hey, if this team wins all 3 in the division, that team wins all 3 in the division.
That would be sick. If you everyone ended the season with 3 division games.
Yeah,
that would be fire.
I think that would be great.
That would be.
You don't have to necessarily start the season AFC NFC, although I like that idea too. But then you don't get the sort of ebbs and flows of the season to compare conferences.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, it all started early in the season. Now this team's all hurt.
But I like that for college football, though. Like college football, you're like you don't know Michigan, Ohio State until they play, because like they just like that's always in rivalry week. That's always at the end. Mm-hmm. I feel like obviously you can't really create like the powerhouse rivalry thing, but if like, hey, we really won't know this division until the last 3 games, and that's when hopefully like you got the most experience and all that stuff. But that's also when maybe you have the most injuries. Yeah. It's tough. It's
I like to take. I'm gonna go 80.7 because I don't think it's necessary the AFC versus NFC, but I do definitely think spurring the late season divisional games worthwhile. That'd be very worthwhile.
I think it's good. I think that's a good take. I'll go 80.8. Just give you a little bump.
80.8. Hey, one up me.
You're welcome.
Perfect. All right, rookie stock report. Up and down. What rookie caught at your eye in a way so far?
So I got to bring this up. I think Trayvon Walker has looked really fucking good. I mean, I think he's
great against the run.
He looks great against the run, and they're stunting a lot in Jacksonville this year. Yeah. And he is just, I mean, he did that at Georgia, and he's good at it. Like, he is – that Jaguars defense, I think, is underrated. And I think they got Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, Devon Hamilton, and I think Shaquille Griffin and Tyson Campbell are, like, two good corners. I've been impressed. Obviously, like, everyone's saying, like, the Colts offense looked like dog shit and the receivers are out, but I think the Jaguars defense is better than we think. And I think Trayvon Walker's look pretty good.
They kind of did get carved by the Commanders of the week before. So you can't really say that 28 points against Washington.
Some of those were, like, some really nice balls from Carson, though. And those
you were, like, caking your Carson.
Carson looked good. And then he killed me again. I hate him.
You sound like Dan Orlovsky. I thought this past week the linebackers were hot. What I saw from Quay Walker, I talked about this on the Monday show. It's perfect fit for that defense. What I saw from Devin Lloyd, my God, Devin Lloyd was the Devin Lloyd we saw at Utah. I think that's as big a dude in the middle of that defense, impactful a dude as Trayvon Walker even has been for them in the middle. I just think he's much more of a playmaker. He had 2 pass breakups and a pick this past week. So impressed by what I've seen from him. And then Malcolm Rodriguez. A lot of these young linebackers, 6th-rounder Malcolm Rodriguez. Now he can get pushed around in coverage. And he's the kind of guy like he has to be on it, or else like if an O lineman surprises him at second level, it can get bad. But he's on it. I mean, he plays so fast. So those 3 linebackers already haven't seen Nakobe Dean yet. Want to see Nakobe Dean. Need to see Nakobe Dean, but those 3 have been very, very good in my opinion.
I don't know where – I think the sacks for Aiden this past week probably shifted the Defensive Rookie of the Year odds pretty significantly because sacks are just such a big component of that. But, like, Quay Walker to me, man, has been really good. And I remember picking him as, like, maybe a surprise, pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year because I think he's going to rack up a lot of tackles. I think that's been true. So, if Aiden – his sacks don't continue to rack up, I still think there might be some value on Quay. Right now, Aiden's plus 200. No other player is – worse than plus 1,000 on FanDuel.
Damn.
So it's like Trayvon Walker's at plus 1,200. Where can you even get Quay? Quay's plus 2,000. I don't know. I think about it.
Not terrible.
Now if Aiden, like it's such a box score production award.
I would probably honestly lean more towards Devin Lloyd at this point from what I've seen because I think Devin's going to rack up more tackles in time because he's playing more. Quay's coming off the field a lot in that defense.
Okay.
So just a thought. Quay's only put 70 snaps for Quay, 119 for Devin Lloyd. So down, though, linebackers, the ones that are starting, those are the only 3 starting, by the way, at the linebacker position in the NFL, the rookie class. DTs have been, and I've said this before, DT's tough. Evaluating DTs heading in the NFL, first year, the physicality difference is so massive. The entire rookie defensive tackle class has 3 total pressures.
Jeez.
3 total pressures. 2 of them, you know who has the most? Know who has 2 of them? Take a guess.
I have no idea.
Kurt Heinisch, Notre Dame legend.
Fuck you.
UDFA. He's played the most snaps of any rookie DT, too. That's why I'm saying Houston's getting the #1 overall pick. He's playing 64 snaps for Houston already. But Logan Hall, the top of the 2nd rounder for the Bucs, 33.6 overall grade through 2 weeks. He's been a pass rush specialist for them. 49 snaps, 43 of them pass rushes, 0 pressures. Yikes. Obviously, Jordan Davis has been fine against the run, but on 24 pass rush snaps, 0 pressures for him. Only other guy with the pressure in this class, Thomas Booker,
I heard that
also a Houston Texan. So no one outside the Texans' defensive tackles has a pressure. And then Devontae White can't see the field for the Packers, 16 snaps. So not great, Bob.
I'm surprised with your up, you didn't say receivers this week.
Drake London,
Garrett Wilson.
We go around.
Traylon Burks easily had the best. Traylon Burks had the best game of his career, even though he didn't look like great.
Yeah,
at least he's getting targets finally.
I think he has. I think of his catches, he has 1 non-crossing route catch so far.
He's the highest graded rookie
kind of that offense
for PFF.
Yeah, well,
he's getting production.
Well, all right. On to first round lock segment. An oldie but a goodie.
It's a goodie.
We're so early into the first round locks. I've already locked in Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. Any guesses as to who would you lock in next after those 2? Jalen Carter, the Georgia DT, Will Anderson.
How are we not locking the
Bama
QBs next? Bryce Young?
Well, I pumped the brakes on the QBs. I don't always know.
No, Bryce Young.
You would go Bryce Young next?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go QB next. We're going to hold off on the QBs because I want to lock in the one who I think is going to be QB1 first. So I'm going to go a different position. I'm going to go. And this one might be – I watched his tape, all the snaps here before this, just to really hammer it home. Peter Skoronski.
Really? The Northwestern
offensive tackle. He's going to be a first-rounder.
Wow.
Lock it in. He has been awesome this year. He has been absolutely tremendous for Northwestern. I believe he hasn't allowed a single pressure this season through 3 games. And not a good tackle class also going to help him out. I don't know if he's like top 10 pick, but he's going to go somewhere in the first round playing the way he has. No movie club. We're going to do movie club on Monday. I thought Austin hadn't seen it. Apparently he had, but no movie club today because
wait, so what the fuck is movie club? I have seen it, and that makes me we can't talk about it.
Well, I didn't end up watching because I thought you weren't going to have watched it, so I was going to move it to Monday, and so I'm going to watch it tomorrow. So that's
Concussion. It's good.
I've heard
it's decent.
I mean I think it's like it's solid. I think it's solid.
Okay, but we'll talk about that on Monday. So end it with this little would you rather action. We do this every week. Player, unit, random. I'll start asking you two. Last year's player first. Last year's Ben Roethlisberger. Would you rather have him or this year's Mitch Trubisky?
So this would you rather is essentially just another who's more him.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
sort of. This is less him.
So it's this year's Mitch Trubisky or last year's Big Ben.
Yeah.
I'm taking last year's Big Ben. Mitch Trubisky's looked like shit.
We said it couldn't get worse, right? We were like, it has to be an upgrade.
Yeah, and it did. I think it has. I would take last year's Big Ben.
I'm starting to think Ben might not have been as washed as like he was made out to be, and it was the offense to a degree. But
and the thing with guys like that too, like Hall of Fame caliber players, like there's a chance where you just get like what Albert Pujols is doing right now. Yeah. He's been washed, but he just he's gonna hit 700 home runs because it's just in some way, shape, or he's him. Yeah, in some way, shape, or form, it's still there. And like I think even if Ben was still hobbling along this year, like you might get 1 or 2 games where it's still there. You know,
I think the problem, honestly, to keep bringing it back to this is Mr. Trubisky has never been him, and I'd rather someone who's been him.
That's
before.
what I'm saying. Yeah. That's a simpler, more eloquent.
He wasn't even him at North Carolina.
No.
Truthfully,
you've never been him.
He was always them.
All right, what's next?
Quinn, what's yours?
All right. Full disclosure, I didn't realize Austin was going to be on the show. Fair. So this is actually good because you can kind of take this another way. I kind of was phrasing this to you, Mike, Garrett Wilson or Drake London, like almost as in, I'm assuming you're going to relate that to the Packers. You know what I mean? Which one would you rather have? But you can do it as a draft analyst. You can do it as a GM. Austin, you can do it as a Raids fan. Take it whichever way you want.
This one's tough, right? I ranked Drake London higher. So I was a touch worried about Garrett Wilson, just like the size, physicality aspect, where like I wasn't obviously with Drake. He has those things. I might go with Garrett Wilson now.
Me too.
From what I've seen early on in his career, he's just where the game's trending, right? And not to say London's not. London's going to be super valuable, and I think was underrated, even though he went wide receiver 1 as a prospect. But yeah, I still do think Garrett Wilson was like the most physically gifted receiver in that class. I just had concerns about his game a little bit, but they're obviously unfounded. He's been electric. So I'm going to go Garrett Wilson.
I think I'd go Garrett Wilson too, which like I don't love because you're shifting in a pre-draft opinion off like 2 games. But
they were 10th and 14th in the draft.
True.
Close.
But I think
they were 13th and 14th. They're right back to back.
What you've seen though from Wilson, I think, is what's been good, and I think this is the biggest thing with any rookie, is like, are you seeing the same levels of suddenness and same levels of ability against better competition? I think you are seeing that. Like I think Garrett Wilson's like red zone touchdown this week where he just gives him the pitter patter and creates a lot of separation.
To be fair, that was a rookie. That was also a rookie. That was Martin Emerson, but yeah.
It's still sick to see the same shit that he was doing in college in the NFL. I think the consistency, is people question it, right? Like, would he look the same? Would he be able to create the same separation with, bigger, faster people? And I think you're seeing it.
Yeah. They were 13th, 14th, so I'm allowed to flip that when it's that close.
Flip it.
All right, my unit. Staying at the wide receiver position. Would you rather have the 2020 Ohio State wide receiving core, which was Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, or I believe it's 2019 then, Alabama wide receiving core, which was Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, who was back on the football field, as we saw.
Is that real?
I don't know if that was real.
I don't think that was real.
I was really upset you sent me that TikTok.
Yeah. We're not going to play that TikTok.
Please don't.
Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, I'm blanking on Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith. Which one would you rather have?
Bama.
Really?
The speed.
I think Waddle's the best of that bunch.
I thought Jerry Jeudy was going to be a lot better receiver than he's turned out.
So
he's not bad, but like
physicality.
I thought he was like surefire the next like
GOAT.
He just keeps
not
hurt,
GOAT,
man.
but just like the next really like Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Like,
He's
you
also
just
just,
know
like-
he was just gonna be like that guy's a stud.
I'm starting to fade like inefficient feet. Like I think he's kind of dancey a little bit, and like there's, I like
So is Garrett
like-
Wilson though.
Yeah, and Garrett Wilson has inefficient feet, and that's kind of I think why I was fading him against in the pre-draft opinion too. So I don't know.
I will say I do think Judy's just like a little fragile, and that's not good.
Yeah,
It keeps being something with him. And I don't think that guys like that with his build, I'm not sure it ever goes away.
He's not him.
he
doesn't have any
might
dog
not
in
be him.
Might not be him. I will say though, I think the all-around ability of Ohio State's might be better. Like all those guys can do every level of the field, but Jalen Waddle and Ruggs is so insanely fast. That's tough.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Alabama. I'll go 2019.
Can I get in on this? I know you guys prep questions. Can I go back to a player and then give a unit?
Yeah. What do you want?
I'll do a player. Quinn, you do a unit, and then I'll do my unit. Player for the next 10 years.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow?
Oh no! Don't make me. That one's tough. No, it's not tough. It's Joe Burrow.
Wow.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go Joe Burrow.
Quinn?
Do I need to?
Yeah.
You really gonna ask me
I think
that
it's tough,
question?
though. I think it's tough.
You saw that Trevor Lawrence pregame speech.
That was honestly like that was in my head.
The pregame speech was rough. I think the pregame speech was rough. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be fucking awesome, though. I think it's going to be it's going to be close. It's going to be close.
I agree. I do think it's personality stuff that sways me.
Yeah.
I like Burrow's he's going to do what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to delete social media. He's going to become him.
He is.
He's him. All right.
We can't say it again, please.
What's your unit? Quinn?
Can't make that promise. So I'm taking this off the field. The like Brown, I don't know what they're called, but like the Browns,
Dog
like
pound?
municipal, because
No,
that's like
yeah.
the section in the stadium. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of Dog Pound members that tailgate in the municipal lot, but like the Browns Muni lot versus Bills Mafia, like whatever it's called where they tailgate. So Bills Mafia, like, would you rather tailgate with Bills
question.
Mafia or the Browns diehards in the Muni
With
lot?
where the Deshaun Watson effigy is.
Oh, my gosh. Did
Yeah,
you put this on
yeah.
that podcast?
No, I don't think.
I wasn't
can't put that one up
not
there.
necessarily with those people because I think
Okay.
that's kind of isolated. But
Yeah.
like I've seen, there was a video maybe like 4 or 5 years ago where a guy like dunked his head in a bucket of piss for like $800.
That was me.
Same, yeah. I mean, but like same type of stuff that Bills Mafia does. So which one would you rather?
I think I'd rather have the Mafia right now. I mean, the Mafia's vibing.
Yeah, that's right now.
Yeah.
Mafia. I think Bills Mafia too, just because
Yeah.
like the wing fat, like they probably all have wings.
It's a great
at their
take.
tailgates.
It's a great take.
You know,
They seem a lot more like, and I guess a lot of it has to do with your team's win-loss record, but they seem a lot more like jovial and welcoming.
Yeah, it's a
Whereas
good word.
from what I've heard from like the Muni lot stuff,
Sounds a little-
that can get a little threatening almost.
interesting. What does Cleveland even have from a culinary perspective here?
Poop. Like all of
Is
Ohio.
it like Pink's hot dogs? Is that their thing? They had like a hot dog thing.
Throw up. Vomit.
I don't know. What's
Vomit dogs.
Cleveland? I mean, since he's got Skyline, Buffalo, like Buffalo having wings is like that's.
Don't
a great
compare-
team. I'm just saying.
Any Ohio City to anything else. Okay.
Just take it easy, dude. You're leaving. You got your wish, right?
All right, I got it. Hey, I got another one while we're looking this up. Hey, Austin,
Yeah.
Buffalo or Cincinnati? You got to live in one for the next 5 years. Where are you picking?
Buffalo probably sucks.
So, dude, you're making a lot of friends here on this.
I might. I don't know. I've never been to Buffalo, so I might go Cincinnati over Buffalo for familiarity. And I think it's probably colder in Buffalo. And I don't know if I can
Yeah,
fuck
it probably
with
is
that.
colder in Buffalo. I'm looking up.
I got my unit.
Iconic Cleveland foods. Okay, what's your unit?
The group of players that do call run pass for Russell Wilson, or a group of players that don't call run pass for Russell Wilson? Who do you want on your team? Do you want the players that are like, yeah, I got you, we're calling it, or would you rather have the guys like, dude, what the fuck is this guy doing?
I want the guys that say, dude, what the fuck is this guy doing?
It's literally the only take.
I want not followers.
You want
Leaders.
the guys that have self-awareness.
Yes.
It's the most important quality a person can have.
If
that's the people that I want to hang out
If
with.
Russell Wilson is asking players on my team to call run pass, and there's a handful that are like, you got it, run. I want those guys cut. I want them cut. I don't want those guys.
So
That's not an edge in the NFL. There's no way. Do you think that's an edge in the NFL? Do you think like in the
No,
NFL?
there's zero chance.
There's no way.
They would do like people. They would have done it already. People would do it if it was, but there's no way you can hear him. I have a source inside the Seahawks building that says he did it with Seahawks too. He does it every week. This is his thing. He's a leader.
I remember getting called out for calling Russell Wilson cringy when that first, well, not with the first, but one of the mic'd up things came out, and like you could just hear just how like ingenuine his leadership sounds, and everyone flamed me for never playing in the league. You don't know what cringy is. Yeah. I have only been vindicated. I've only been vindicated.
That the amount of blowback I got for just, we posted like a TikTok about his fake handshakes coming out for practice, and I'm just like,
you got blowback for that?
Yeah.
How? That looks terrible.
Everyone was like, he's just living his best life. I'm like, dude,
stop.
All right.
If anyone does that, I don't want to emulate that.
I wish I had the video queued up, because like when they yell pass, it's so like they're like pass, like it's so deflated. Like,
no one wants to look that dumb.
I know. It's so forced and deflated. It's not. I mean, you can see it in their face and hear it in their voice. Yeah. It's not good.
Plus, the people who are reading pass run on the field have better tells and better angles on like the guard play and stuff like that to actually know if it's run or pass. Whereas you're like at the sideline angle. And like you're calling pass like after the quarterback's like setting up to drop, whereas like linebackers are trying to react to like pulling guards and shit like that.
If you're listening at that level of football, if your cue is coming from the sideline, you are already fucked.
Yeah. Yes.
You're already fucked. Okay.
If you're blitzing and you're just waiting until Russell Wilson calls pass, and you're like, no! Wait, I gotta get back to my drop. Go ahead.
Okay. Last one. Random. If you're not a fan of any team going, would you rather tailgate and go to the national championship game, college national championship game, or the Super Bowl? The tailgating and going being, say, whatever your ideal location is to go. Let's say it's in Phoenix.
Both of them.
Yeah,
that's your ideal location to go.
I don't know.
Okay, regardless.
Phoenix. I was trying to think of shit on Phoenix.
I was just thinking of one where they both.
He doesn't like any city.
I think they're like. I was thinking of one where they've both been or both will be playing.
Well, I have another qualifying question.
Okay.
Is your budget the same? Like, if you do, are you going to spend the same amount of money either way?
Yes.
Man, I think I'd go Super Bowl then. I think Super Bowl is going to be more expensive, and I'm going to spend as much as because like everything's just more expensive with where the Super Bowl goes. I think I'd go Super Bowl, and the whole week is like a fucking event. I would go Super Bowl.
I'm saying day of. You're just
day of.
Day of tailgate splash go to game.
Just day of, I might go championship. Just day of, I think I go championship. Because the tailgate scene's probably going to be lit. Or Phi. Or him.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess, again, like, I feel like location plays a big part in it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I remember there were a lot of Bengals fans complaining in L.A. you couldn't tailgate really anywhere around the stadium because they have, like, security that, like, shuts that down. And I don't know, maybe they do that for the national championship game, too. But,
no,
yeah, I mean, if you could.
Game got wild last year.
Then yeah, maybe championship game. Although I like pro so much better than college, though.
I know that's the thing. It's like I would enjoy the Super Bowl more.
Yeah. Plus, I'd just be able to say I went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But the tailgate of a natty would be fun. I think I lean Super Bowl myself, but with the tailgate added, it is a close call. Because I just don't think a Super Bowl tailgate is going to pop off. You have literally over half the stadium are not invested in the game. You just don't have the same energy as a national championship game where it's like 50-50 split and those people are going nuts. So that one's tough. I think it's Super Bowl though. All right, Quinn, what's yours?
All right, sort of similar vein. We're not spring chickens anymore. We're kind of the age where everybody's getting married. So you're going on a lot of bachelor parties, trying to decide maybe which ones you don't want to go to, planning bachelor parties, stuff like that. And it always seems like there's two sort of main locations, at least like for people in this area of the world.
Yeah.
So not Austin because he's leaving. But it's either like Vegas or like a beach. So what would you like if you're going to a bachelor party, Vegas or a beach?
I have my take on bachelor parties, and I've been doing some consulting services on the side for people who are soon to get married. I think if you are wanting to spend a fuckload of money and just do unruly club stripper events with the boys, Vegas or Nashville is like where you're gonna have to go, because I think that's the best place.
Nashville is the other one that was, again, especially in this area, like it's almost jumped the shark.
But if your priorities in your bachelor party is like, I just want to be somewhere with my guys, drink some beers, and tell some stories, like don't spend money on Vegas then. Like Don't go to Vegas if you're just looking to hang with the fellas. Go like rent a cabin in some bumfuck town in Ohio and like have a ball. But if you're like, no, the number one priority of my bachelor party is I want to like do some crazy stay up all night type of stuff, then I think it's worth spending a ton of money in Vegas.
I think Vegas is a very overrated bachelor party destination.
It's a terrible take.
What? I just think it's a logistical nightmare to get a bunch of people in Vegas doing the same thing because there's so much to do. People are going to want to do different stuff. I think beach bachelor party all day, every day. I don't think it's close.
Okay.
And you don't want to like force people to be like, hey, spend a G for me on my bachelor party.
Yeah, no, the money thing is the biggest thing. The money thing is the biggest thing.
Have you looked at beach houses lately? They're like, even like an Airbnb is like $3,000 a night. So you got to split $300. But like you can get a solid ass hotel room in Vegas for $150, $175.
Dude, when we went to Vegas, the PFF crew, how many dudes were we with? Like 8?
Yeah,
and that was electric.
Yeah, that hotel we stayed in was real sick.
Yeah. Whoa. Don't bring up that hotel. That hotel was fine.
But you could stay there for $50
exactly. You could go. What was the name of that hotel, Quinn?
Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras. If you go to Vegas, tell them AG sent you. Mardi Gras will get you a nice deal.
That was fun though.
It smells like cigs. Every room smells like cigs. It is cigs. Smoking, non-smoking, it's cigs.
It's built on a foundation of cigarettes.
Right, I need a random.
You got one?
I don't know.
This is always the hardest one to come up with.
Yeah, and especially I know this segment existed. Keg or like 150 beers.
I mean, always keg.
Always keg.
I thought you were going to go like keg or like jungle juice.
Okay, keg or jungle juice?
Jungle juice is like a young man's game, though. Well, keg or I'm trying to think like a tailgate. What else would you put at a tailgate?
Bloody Marys. A Bloody Mary station.
Okay. Still keg.
I still go keg. I think Bloody Marys are overrated.
Bloody Marys are awesome, but if you have more than 2, like
you're in a bad place.
Yeah, you need to go buy Tums immediately.
You probably need.
I got to go buy them after 1.
Yeah.
So,
kegs are just like a different energy that I very much enjoy. Plus, draft beer is just better in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Tap beer.
You want to hear a crazy take?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I prefer cans to like bottles and draft.
Oh,
that's a savage
It's
take.
Bizarre.
That's
I know.
Disgusting.
I will say I hate bottles. My brother drinks exclusively bottles.
That's a bad take. Bottles are easily the worst.
Bottles stink.
It's draft cans. Bottles.
Okay. I'll take cans to bottles.
Actually, worst are aluminum pints. Aluminum pints stink.
What the fuck is an aluminum pint?
Twist off cap.
Like an NFL, a stadium beer.
Yeah, those
stadium
beers.
beers.
Those suck.
All right. There's your show. We got Cynthia Frelund now on to talk about.
Could you get some of these takes? Can we get Cynthia on some of these takes?
Yeah, she wants.
Go ahead.
What do you think about the Vegas versus beach bachelor party? No, we're going to talk about surprise teams so far this season in a good and a bad way compared to her preseason projections, as well as wide receiver value in the NFL. Make sure you guys check it out, and we'll be back on Monday. I am joined now by Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network's analytics expert. You can see her every Sunday on NFL Network's NFL Game Day morning at 9 a.m. Cynthia, how are you doing this week?
Listen, next time you have me on here, you just email me directly or call me directly. You have my phone number. You don't need to ask the person there. Like, just ask me yourself.
I enjoyed doing that intro, actually. I enjoyed that for sure. And I wanted to talk win totals with you because you had this win projection article 2 weeks ago. I did my win projections, and now they don't mean anything because the 2 weeks has thrown them completely in the garbage. So I want to talk the teams that have surprised you most, and I want to go through and power rank most in a good way and most in a bad way. So let's start with 3 teams here, however you want to order them, that have surprised you most in a good way so far through 2 weeks.
Okay, so I'm from Michigan, and I think if you're from Michigan and you're a Lions fan, you automatically just assume the worst no matter what. So even with the Hard Knocks and everyone being like, oh, we love the Lions, whatever, I am actually very pleasantly surprised that this offense is even more impressive than, we thought they'd be better. I think you and I both sort of agreed that their O-line was significantly better. I didn't have a lot of faith in the defense. And I think we've seen like Aiden Hutchinson really did take that step forward. I mean, 2 sacks in this last game is a big deal. And they looked really good against the Commanders. Okay, I get it. There's an asterisk there. It's the Commanders. But I don't know, when you're from Michigan and you just see this, you grow up being like, oh, I'm just going to be disappointed. And then anytime the math even supports the Lions, I'm like, oh, come on. So I think that they've probably surprised me the most in a good way from it. I don't know, because my gut's always like, they're not going to win.
Yeah, you picked against them. One of your picks of the week this week was the Commanders to upset them on the road. How are you going to go? How are you going to do them like that?
I mean, listen, I do all these things blind. Like, trust me, if I didn't pick them blind, I would just pick like with my heart every week. Like, it's wild. So I would never pick, I would have picked the Jets over the Browns. That with my heart, math did not support that. And then it happened. So maybe I should go with my different strategy. But I think over the long term, like less emotion is probably the way to keep doing it.
Yeah, I had the Lions at number 3 in my power rankings of surprise teams. And yeah, obviously they lost week 1, but like they kept it close against the Eagles, who are higher even on my list of the surprise teams than them. But this offense is, I wasn't expecting this offense. I was, DeAndre Swift had kind of a different disappointing start to his career. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown had an electric end to last season, but it's like, oh, he's a slot receiver, and what else do you have for me? I think Jared Goff's been very good. The O-line's been very good despite being a little banged up, and DeAndre Swift.
Jeff Okudah. I mean, goodness gracious. Like this guy, if you look to see how many snaps, you do this because you do all the draft stuff. You saw he barely played at Ohio State, drafted really, really high, obviously, top 3, and then hasn't been on the field at all. But it seems like, when he's healthy, it kind of works. Who knew?
Yeah.
Get a good corner. Life's better when you have a better corner.
I think only 63 yards for Okudah through 2 weeks. He had that more double that in week 1 of his rookie season. So he looks a little different here. And anyone else who surprised you in a good way so far this season?
I mean, I think I'm probably surprised at just how good the Eagles are. I think you kind of nailed it. Like, we thought they would be good. And then I thought, if I'm honest, I thought that they would be the beneficiary of a favorable schedule. And they probably still are. Like, let's be honest. They probably, like, they have their schedule coming up is pretty cakey. So, I thought that they wouldn't look so strong against more difficult opponents, but we saw against the Vikings, who are a difficult opponent, that they had it figured out. I mean, big plays, Slay, former Lion. That's how they work. They actually work better when they leave Detroit. That's just a fact.
Usually.
But that was to shut down Justin Jefferson in that way. Now I understand. Let's talk about Kirk Cousins against the blitz. Not great. And whatever happens to him when it's a primetime game, it's not like there's no logic for it, but it's incredible how differently he plays. I don't know if that's good English, but how he plays is wild. So, I think the Eagles are very, I'm glad I picked them to win the division, especially now that unfortunate injuries happened to the Cowboys, but, very, very interesting.
Yeah. And with the Eagles, I think you hit the nail on the head there with their schedule, right? Like as much as impressive as they were the previous 2 weeks, those were 2 teams that were below 500 a year ago. The Vikings, the Lions were not playoff teams and like are even right now considered borderline to make the playoffs, even if so. And the rest of their schedule, like they're not going to face one that you can for sure say is like going to be in the playoff conversation for a while. Probably the Packers, like in week 10. Or is that week 10? Packers in the end of November. Yeah. They got the Commanders, the Jaguars, the Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Steelers. Like, it really is kind of a cakewalk for them.
Yeah. I mean, and one thing we do have to, like, I will say the Jags, I was proud of them too. Like that, you brought up the Jaguars. Like, I think, that could be they could be one of those teams. I'm not suggesting they're going to be contending, like, although the AFC South is like not good, but just in general. But I was really like, they had a really good game plan. They had a really good strategy for making sure that Matt Ryan didn't, the stunts, like the way that they orchestrated the defense, like really solidified that. Like I'm not going to go so far as to be like, the Jags are back. They're going to like, I'm not that, but I was actually very pleasantly surprised in both matchups that the strategy was just a lot better, right? Like just, who would have thought you get rid of Urban Meyer and you get a better strategy? Like a Super Bowl winning, proven coach, whatever. But so. Yeah,
I don't think he could have gotten worse. Like I don't think they could have possibly. So I do think, though, you hit the nail on the head. It's underrated, their defense right now. Like everyone wants to talk Trevor Lawrence. Everyone wants to talk Christian Kirk. Those were the headliners this offseason.
Sure.
This defense is much different. Obviously, shutting out the Colts. yes, Colts have their struggles offensively, but like I just think from a talent perspective, they look much improved.
Much stronger, but again, the strategy, like I said, those stunts, like maybe that's like the Matt Ryan stopper right there, right? It's you. If you look back and you're like, look what happens it's like they found a good trend. They've got a really strong analytics department there too, so it's kind of not a surprise. They brought the people over from Philadelphia, even with Eugene leaving, so it's a smart team.
So my number one team for the most surprising in a good way is the Buffalo Bills. And I picked them to make the Super Bowl. And I know you did too. But did you expect this? I mean, you had them as the highest win total coming to season of anyone in the NFL, 11.7 projected wins. Did you expect this level of dominance? Because I did not, truthfully. Like, they handled two good teams, and it wasn't even close.
To be honest with you, I was shouting at them last night to like stop showing us different offensive looks, because I spent the preseason with them, and Ken Dorsey just has like, look, it's when you have Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and typically Gabe Davis, who obviously didn't play last night, and Dawson Knox, like you can kind of create like this video game and be like, let's see, like he's playing Madden with us. Like he's playing Madden, but I'm like, don't put it all on film yet. This is a really good team. Their corners obviously are young, especially with Dane Jackson. He appears to be okay, but having gotten hurt and Tre'Davious White not being back. So not every team is just going to they're not going to be able to do like 72 to whatever the score was, like the outscoring their past two opponents. But I'm like, temper it down. Like I did expect big things. You're right. They have exceeded these expectations, but I don't even think we've started to see what the defense is capable of doing once they get healthier. So, which will be great because they've got some hard games coming up. Remember, week 6, they've got the rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs. Their schedule isn't cake. And actually, I think that the Dolphins game this weekend could be an interesting one because they haven't really been the victim of a few big plays against them. Right. Cooper Kupp had some nice plays against, but nothing like we've seen possible from the Tyreek Hills of the world and what we saw from Tua and Tyreek last week against the Ravens. Although I will say, asterisk there, the Ravens secondary was totally hurt. So again, it's still Tyreek though.
Yeah, if we do see the same like dominance from the Bills against this Dolphins offense, playmakers everywhere. We can back it in now. I mean, we can just go right to the AFC Championship game because this team looks that good at the moment. Let's go to the flip side of the coin, though. Let's go to teams that have disappointed you, that you had high expectations for, your model had high expectations for, and have so far fallen flat on their face. Who stands out to you in that regard?
I mean, I don't know. I had this team as a wild card team, but they should have beaten the Steelers. That was the wildest game that the Bengals defense played really well week 1, despite a wild loss. 5 turnovers, including 4 interceptions thrown by Joe Burrow is just not something that you would have imagined happening against a rebuilding, retooling Steelers situation. So that one, that was disappointing. And then not to take anything away from Cooper Rush, because, he had a nice win against the Vikings as well. But, the Dolphins defense, the Cowboys defense shouldn't have been that big of a problem for Joe Burrow. And like that one was a little bit, that's been confounding just because honestly, it's more because of Joe Burrow than anything else that I'm a little surprised that they're 0-2. I was a little shocked, and their offense they did 2 separate things. Week 1, the defense has actually played well in both outings, not supremely, but like well, right? And the first week there were all those turnovers and your defense just gets hosed by that. Defense kept you in that game. Second game, there's such a conservative game plan against the Cowboys. I was just very confused by that. So it's just 2 different ways of losing, which is it's just usually you lose like one way, right? Like not, like, hey, let's change our identity.
If you ask anyone in Cincinnati, they know they have a lot of different ways of losing around here and have done so.
I'm a Lions fan, I get it.
Unfortunately, yeah. But to me, they're still not what I would say is the most disappointing team.
Oh, they're not the most disappointing. I'm building it up here.
Oh, building it up. Okay, we'll keep going. Who's been more disappointing than them to you?
Well, you have to look at, the Rams. You're coming off a Super Bowl high, and they didn't just lose to the Bills. That was a butt kicking. Like they didn't lose. It was
uncompetitive.
Ever. Yeah. And then you almost allow the Falcons to make a huge comeback, and the Falcons are a rebuilding team, not one that I have a strong win total projection for the season. And it didn't seem like they had the fatigue set in. It didn't seem like they had a good plan to play all 4 quarters against them. I think that's disappointing when you pay all of the amount of money that they spent on this team is just mind boggling. And you've got the very best player in all of football in Aaron Donald. Like if you look at the difference between like the next closest person at his position, it shouldn't be that the Falcons like almost complete a comeback on you when their number 1 wide receivers sitting at home.
Yeah, the Falcons, you had them as the second lowest projected team heading into the season, and I still agree with that. Like they still aren't that good.
Not great, no.
But for the Rams to hang around with them into the fourth quarter and get blown out by a team that realistically you're going to have to beat, or a team of that caliber you're going to have to beat en route to another Super Bowl, I do have to agree that the Rams are in trouble. Still haven't mentioned my number 1 team though, so I'm curious if you have any.
Is your number 1 the Broncos?
My number 1's the Tennessee Titans.
Oh,
I had a little higher expectations than maybe most on the Titans then.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Look, the Titans are going to do what the Titans do. Like they just stopped playing last night. They were like, okay, like it counts as 1 in the loss column, whether we lose. But I mean, look, they got embarrassed, of course, but they're not going to show you anything else. Vrabel's smart with that. Now they'll come back and have it's just going to look different. The Titans will probably end up winning this damn division. Like that's what's going to happen. Like the division's not great. Let's be honest. I mean, I think the Colts might be one of the most disappointing teams. Yeah. They're on my list too. Like, how do you have that bad of a how do you play this poorly with Jonathan Taylor? I understand there was no Michael Pittman Jr. last game, et cetera, but like, how do you play it? But at the Titans, you got Derrick Henry. They neutralized Derrick Henry like very quickly last night, they being the Buffalo Bills. And then they kind of couldn't get their mojo back. And what's going on with Ryan Tannehill? They'll start Tannehill again. It's not turned into Malik Willis's team. It's just not. The Bills are really, really good. And the Titans are like, all right, well, we still have the entire AFC South. So like all you have to do is make it to the playoffs. And this kind of team is actually a nightmare for a team like the Bills come playoff time, once we all know who each other are, right? Like the Bills have this early lead because they have a lot of continuity and they have a lot of really good players. They're kind of in this prime position and they have the right quarterback. Like that formula is pretty successful all around, right? And then you look at, and by the way, the Bills schedule after their 8th game, I think they have a week 7 bye, but after the Packers, the Bills schedule becomes very easy. So maybe they won't be in prime form anymore. Who knows, right? Like things change, but the Titans I think they'll pick it up. They just always do. Like that's how these Vrabel, Justin Simmons is playing his ass off. Like there's a lot of Kevin Byard is really underrated. Like safety play is becoming more and more important. All of these AFC quarterbacks have big splits against man versus zone coverage. So if you have good safeties, like that really does help you out.
So I want to follow that up by saying, what of those disappointing teams do you think has the best chance of turning it around? And which of the disappointing teams are you like actually pushing the panic button on? Ship isn't going to be righted anytime soon.
The Broncos aren't going to be righted. The Broncos, I think, they had big expectations bringing Russell Wilson in. And if you look at like in their defense, now you've got Pat Surtain's banged up and Justin Simmons is not playing for 4 games. Like that's really hard to come back from in the AFC West where things are just so slim. The Raiders, I don't know. I had them 4th in the division. A lot of people had them a lot higher up. I don't think they're going to be able to come back. They're horrible schedule for them. They've got like 4 away games or they've got like a month of away games with like 1 home over 6 weeks, something crazy like that. And then the Colts and the Titans, it's between the 2 of them. One of them has to win the division. It's not going to be the Texans and it's not going to be the Jags. And so we'll have I tend to favor teams with really strong O-lines. So I guess that means I'm on the Colts a little bit, but it just feels like Vrabel Titans with the Justin Simmons situation, like maybe, I don't know, one of those 2.
They're both so flawed. And the Colts O-line is just not what it was.
It's not
2 years ago, which is the other problem. Like someone's going to take that division. It could be like 8-9. It's going to be rough.
And then they'll win their wild card game. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they'll play someone who was in the AFC West who's like, we just played a gauntlet of teams to get here. What are you doing? And then it'll be
and then it's upset in like a 13-10 game.
That's what I'm calling it now. I don't even know who the teams are.
That's like that feels like the Ravens losing that game, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah, sadly. But all right, let's get to another thing. You wrote an article about wide receiver switching teams and how the first few games of a wide receiver doesn't necessarily predict on a new roster or in a new situation, doesn't necessarily predict how they're going to play the rest of the season. Can you expound on that a little bit for the listeners there?
Yeah. So what I did was I looked over the past, I looked over 35 years, and then it ended up becoming that we run so much fewer. Wow. We pass so much more. How about that? Yeah. We pass a lot more often now. So like the percentages were just so different, right? Like you got like such a different bump in the 90s as you did in the 2000s, even in the 10s, whatever. So I kind of narrowed it down. I wanted to look at like the TOs moving, people like that to see, because I heard remembered game, you remember when TO was first an Eagle and that 3 games against the Giants, or 3 touchdowns in the first game against the Giants, that kind of stuff. So I was like, what happens? And so I looked to see what are the coverages like against these like premier wide receivers who go to a different team, and how long does this like bump happen? Because they don't really know how TO is going to fit in Philadelphia, or they don't really know how, for example, AJ Brown's going to fit in Philadelphia again, right? So it tends to be over the course of, obviously, look, like there's averages here because, some teams you play the Bills in week 1 and some teams play, the not Bills in week 1, right? I don't want to insult anyone. So it's
safe
it's difficult, but it seems like you almost get like a full 3 games of a head start. The coverages are different. Now, it really helps if you have a really strong number 2 receiver or tight end that catches passes, etc., so that you have like this effect of like Jalen Waddle gets a little bit of an uptick because Tyreek Hill is there, or Devonta Smith gets a little uptick because of AJ Brown. Although Devonta Smith, I'm not willing to call him I don't know what I think of him yet, right? He's just
year 2. Yeah.
You just got to pump the brakes a little bit. It seems good, but just be disciplined. So it tends to be about 3 full games. If your quarterback, if your nucleus of your team is kind of the same and you add the wide receiver, sometimes for the opposite situation, it can be like a little weirder. So like I looked at also like the Michael Pittman situation, getting Matt Ryan, and you don't get as big of a bump from a different quarterback. Now, if you got a totally stylistically different quarterback, then the results are different. But you have to remember like pocket passers versus like true rushing threats. Like there weren't as many true rushing threat quarterbacks in the past as there are now. So, some of that is the same. But if you're the team that the wide receiver goes to, typically gets a bump.
Did you look at all, because I think it's the other side of the coin that interests me probably more, about the teams that lost those wide receivers and how they were impacted the next season?
Yeah. So the only problem is that some of those teams had really crappy quarterbacks. So it felt like they were maybe gearing up for, not crappy. They were not the premier court, not as good, whatever.
You could say crappy. Like, we'd say crappy on this show.
I'm just, whatever. I'm gonna get in trouble. But they were more in like rebuilding modes or retooling modes. It wasn't like it's rare to see like what we've seen with both Devontae Adams and with Patrick Mahomes losing Tyreek Hill, like Aaron Rodgers. That's more of the rarity as opposed to the opposite. The wide receiver market has like exploded. There's been some changes to that. I think NIL has something to do with that, and kids now probably staying in college for a little while longer. So, ultimately I think it's just like a function of the times, but you don't see that as much. It typically takes about, like, it's funny because on the team that loses the wide receiver, it was almost 2 games. So it's like 1 game more for the team that gained the wide receiver, but it's 2 games of bad until adjust. Errant data, like anomaly data for the teams who lost. So Aaron Rodgers should be leveling out pretty soon, and Patrick Mahomes probably already is, but leveling out pretty soon.
Do you think this is the start of a trend, all 3 of those wide receivers moving over the course of the offseason? Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill. Or do you think teams like the Titans and the Packers are going to regret it so much with how their offenses look this year that teams are going to be more unwilling to really depart ways with that number 1 type of wide receiver in the future?
I think we're in a bubble, and I think the bubble will be done in like 2-3 years. I think because what I think's happening, this is my premise, is that because of NIL, the good wide receivers are going to stay in college longer, and because they get paid more money in college than they do on their rookie deal often, right? Like if you're really, really good, that can happen. So I think we're in a little bit of that, like we're riding the ship in terms of how NIL impacts the NFL. So I think after that, then we'll start to see things level and normalize out. But I think because of the explosion in salary situation for wide receivers, I don't think you're going to see, I think eventually you'll see it leveling off. But I think the teams that decided to invest in these big wide receiver names now, we're really thinking about 2-3 years and the opportunity for them to kind of, be able to take advantage of when these good wide receivers finally come back out, then we'll get them now. Like Miami was like, we must win now. We have to figure it out, right? As opposed to, the Chiefs were like, well, we can make do because we've got the quarterback.
Yeah, I think some of those teams are going to regret it, especially.
They're going to regret it, but
Titans are regretting it, but yeah, I think the Packers, Chiefs, even come like play.